This has been a tiny bit of a chaotic start, so I'm just fiddling around with the lighting before I sit down, and that lighting looks like it's just blowing out that corner anyway. Bear with me. There we go. It clearly wasn't helping, which means I can actually move it. So as you can see from the title, this is a bit of a mish-mashy kind of chilled live, but I figured it would be a nice thing to come and do whilst I'm feeling a little burnt out. Although my dear friend did laugh at me and say, you're burnt out and you're doing a second live in under 24 hours, which is definitely the case, so we will talk about that as well. But yeah, I'm just making sure that everything is okay and on screen, and now I can sit down. So I hope everyone's okay. I know that this is a bit of a, I want to say an early time for some people. I usually try not to start lives before 3, but there you have it. This is where we're at today. So hello. And feel free to jump in the chat. I have managed to set up my second computer so that I can see what you're saying, if anyone's there, which I can see quite a few of you are. Hi Mimi, hi Hazel. Hazel, you are a glutton for punishment, clearly, because this is your second time with me in under 24 hours. Do excuse me, by the way, because this is live, you are going to see me, you're going to hear me glugging water. It's pretty warm in the part of England that I'm in, for England anyway. And therefore lots and lots of water needs to be had, because apparently my body just dehydrates in a matter of seconds. Hey Logan, also another glutton for punishment. I did add a little bit of something to the title as well. So basically I had several lovely individuals and friends send me some gifts, which I thought I would come on and show, because, you know, sometimes when you're burnt out and you are working and creating and doing all of the other stuff behind the scenes, it's nice to come on and do something that feels a little bit more frivolous, I suppose. So I thought that that would be fun. And then I realised actually I have been in the process of parting with some decks, and also have some, you know, that I've got registered to go. Registered? Advertised? What are even words anymore? I did want to talk about burnout a bit. As I say, hello Avalon, hello. And yeah, just hang out. So if you have any questions for me, this will be a prime time to ask them. But we are going to start off with my lovely gift from the dear Larkin Legend, who you could see in the chat. I don't know how long Logan's going to be here for. And I'm going to preface this one by saying this is a different version of a deck that I have parted with. I can't remember if it was last year or this year, because my sort of concentration and memory and stuff is really poor at the moment because of my conditions and a flare-up, so apologies. I'm a bit sort of unreliable when it comes to dates, basically. Other than that, we're all good. But this is the Deviant Moon Tarot, and basically I'm really in love with my 𝗵𝗫 della Luna, which, for those who aren't familiar, I will get it out really quickly. This is in a gifted bag, actually, and this was created by the ever talented 𝗬𝗁𝗏, so our very own 𝗬𝗁𝗏. Is her title called 𝗬𝗁𝗏, or has she changed it, or is it called something else? I don't know. So 𝗬𝗁𝗏 made this and gifted it to me anyway, but that was a while ago. And this was actually a gift from Logan. It was a birthday meets Christmas present. So this is the 𝗵𝘁𝗿𝗁𝗀, and I have to say 𝗵𝘁𝗿𝗁𝗀's indie cardstock is much more my kind of thing. And cardstock is a bigger factor for me now as someone with a larger collection who has noticed over time that I do tend towards decks that are kinder on my hands due to hand pain. Also, I just really love the energy of this. This is cheeky. This is definitely cheekier, I find, than the Deviant Moon. So I sold the Deviant Moon and the coffee table book a while back, but I was aware that the bordered edition was just a fragment wider and shorter, which I had wondered if... It's gorgeous, isn't it, this green ribbon? And look, she found me the perfect charm. So cute. Very kind of piratey, earthy vibes going on there. What was I saying? Yes, so I knew that the stock size was slightly different on this, and I was really keen to try it. I think, Logan, you found it in a thrift shop or secondhand, or at a secondhand price. I can't remember. That's what I want to say anyway. Here's the box if anyone's not familiar, because the box looks slightly different to the borderless edition. It does come with a bigger box. Logan did ask me if I wanted it and I said no, make packaging easier. He wasn't sold on it, so he sent it my way to try, and it's been here for a couple of days along with this really, really cute noodle snake. Look at this. It's so cute. So this is one of Logan's stickers, and I believe that the noodle snake is from an upcoming deck that's going to be kickstarted, I want to say in the fall, and it's called the Lilac Lenormand. You've been playing around with names, so if I've got the name wrong, then it's my bad. Right, $7 US this was. I like it. I do like something thrifted. The first time that I got it out, I had the same response that I have to all US games cardstock, which is I don't personally like it, and I have one of my oldest decks I've had since childhood is the Medicine Woman Tarot with their old US games cardstock, and it's perfection. So I'm not gonna lie, I am quite a grizzly fucker about their newer iterations of cardstock. But one of the things that I didn't get on, aside from that with the Deviant Moon, I suppose wanted the addition of the borders to break up the artwork, because they have a really, really cohesive background the whole way through. And borders don't break up the ability to story tell and weave for me in the cards. I will start flicking through them in a second. They don't split it up for me at all, and I am one of the pro-border people, as long as it's one border and not 5 zillion borders, although I suppose technically this is 2. But there's just a few minor changes about this. That one of the other changes, I believe, yeah, here we go, is the colour of the titles. I can't remember what the normal one looks like now, a normal borderless. But I feel like there's a different colour shift in this, which is quite surprising because I like really aesthetically dark decks. I love the artwork on this anyway. For all intents and purposes, the borderless should have been a real hit, and it just wasn't, and I gave up on it. But I am loving how this breaks it up. I do read on this brown, what would you call this? Because this, for anyone who isn't on my Instagram, this isn't the actual table. The table's just a horrible, cheap white plain table. I don't have like an altered desk per se. It's not like an antique bureau, unfortunately. This is like a thick paper layout thing. And yeah, it was actually quite difficult to enjoy the cards reading on here, which is where I read my cards quite a lot of the time. And I am finding the broken up artwork, and you can see like the border colours. We've got sort of like a faded ruby red here and an olivey green here. We've got a really nice sort of royal purple, and then another sort of faded navy blue, and then finally a black. I think that's all of the colours. It just adds some personality to the deck that I actually am really enjoying. As I say, I've only had it a couple of days, I feel. I'm glad that I got lilac. It is the lilac Lenormand. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Yeah, I've only had it a couple of days, and like I said, I had quite a strong response to the cardstock, but aside from that kind of hissy fit, I have missed the artwork in this, and I did actually speak about this deck in a Patreon live that I did yesterday in regards to the Pentacles, and whilst I am not going to repeat all of the content that I was going through, it was quite interesting because I had the deck out on my altar. And I don't commonly, now I have done, you will look back and see videos in the past where I talk about decks that I feel inhabit a certain season perhaps. I'm not sure I've ever talked about elements. If I have, I don't remember. Or overall sort of suits for a deck. And the seasonal thing I really struggle with unless it's like fall. I seem to be able to assign decks to fall really easily. And then everything else, there's a couple that are really obviously kind of like spring summery, but it's not really something that I do. And when I was creating notes for the discussion about the Pentacles and how I see the suit and what I wanted to convey, the story that goes through the suit, the cults, the energy, the earth element. As I'm writing notes, I look over and I think about how this deck feels very Pentacles to me. And I think that that's probably one of the reasons that I missed the artwork, because the artwork for me is something that I would have up on my wall, and that doesn't always mean that it's going to work well for me in a deck. Would I prefer it if it was on bendy cardstock and not cardboardy cardstock? Yes, I honestly do think that would make a difference for me. I am really not here to lie, and I appreciate that to some people who can't understand that it may sound superficial, but it's a preference, and it's a pain preference, but also a tactile one, and I am very tactile. But I think that this one, it might actually stay, because to me, whilst a lot of people said how like otherworldly they find this deck, and hopefully you can see it okay. I probably should have zoomed in for everyone. In fact, there's nothing saying I can't. Let's zoom in a little bit first. It does mean I've wobbled the camera a bit. There we go. We're real professional over here, as you can tell. They are lovely colours, aren't they? They are very deep, earthy colours to me as well. But aside from this kind of otherworldly vibe, it has a very big steampunk vibe to me. There's something about the creation of material and the kind of draw to texture and physicality and creation that really comes through quite strong in this, that I feel comes through in some of the steampunk stuff as well, and the industrial layers, I suppose, that are in that. I don't know if that's going to make sense to anyone, because I said very similar yesterday in my other live. But it is honestly how it feels to me, and I think that that's more a commentary on my relationship with the artwork and how it reads for me, because I have decks that are out and out nature decks that feel not pentacles or earthy to me whatsoever. So I thought it was a really interesting concept, and actually let me know, for anyone who's listening, what do you think of like a tag where, and this may well have been done, which if it has, then tell me, and I'll go back and do it if I can find it, but of just a couple of decks per element and why, because I feel like it would be a very interesting discussion. Because when I said that the 𝗕𝗂𝗀𝗁𝗍𝗂𝗍 deck for me, which is one that's got landscapes on it, feels very 𝗕𝗂𝗀𝗁𝗍𝗂, I think that that was somewhat surprising to people because visually it looks so earthy, but it's about that relationship that I have with it, I suppose. So yeah, favourite Queen of Wands ever, 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 ever. I freaking love her. I actually feel sad I wasn't zoomed in sooner, actually. On my phone, it looks far more zoomed in. Not that this is of interest to people, but just if you ever wonder when I do lives, why it's so far away. And then I looked over to my laptop and was like, that's actually really zoomed out. So it's this weird thing that YouTube does. But yeah, it's the bordered edition and you can still get a hold of it, I think. I'm not here to encourage people to buy shit, but I know people are going to ask the question. It's got really rounded edges, which kind of looks weird where they've decided to border the back as well. Definitely a weird option, but nevertheless, the edges are quite nice. So yeah, unless someone rounded it more, but it looks really clean. So yes, my dear friend Logan sent me this and I'm pretty psyched to give it another go. So many tags have been done and reinvented. I don't know of one offhand and think you should just go for it. Yes, I agree actually. Can I shuffle it? See, this is the problem with the long decks for me. I can get my hands around it, but it's very uncomfortable. I couldn't with the borderless at all. I had to shuffle it long ways. This one, I can uncomfortably do it this way. Oh. Well, yeah, it felt like a bad decision. So it's still probably going to be a long way shuffle. And no, I don't riffle shuffle, folks. It is, again, not friendly to my hands. Although I'd be interested to know if people can riffle shuffle US Games cardstock, any of the new stuff, because it gives me like it would crease vibes. Oh, what did we get? Page of Swords and Queen of Swords. Are they just all swords next to each other? 2, 5, yeah. I've not done a very good job shuffling this. We'll keep the page because it jumped and you're not going to be able to see it, but I'm actually going to put it on my little tarot board for the day, which is this, if anyone has not seen my altar space. So that was my giftie from my dear Logan. And then I do have another deck, but let's mix it up. One of my other friends recently gifted me some feathers and some bones, especially, or specifically rather, beach bones that she has been collecting for me over the course of however many months, which is just, I love that. I love sending people those parcels as well. I've actually been gathering some bits for one of my friends, Vanessa, for the longest time, and she has been as well. And we're like, eventually we're just going to have to send this to each other because it's been like a year. But anyway, my lovely friend India sent me this beautiful little selection of bones and stuff. I haven't got them all down. Some of them are just in and around my altar already. And they're placed in use at the moment. So I have a couple of spine pieces, and based on the size of the spine, I am gonna assume that they're some kind of deer or something like that, and that I know where she lives. I'm not going to say where she lives. So I'd imagine, although it's the beach and there's quite a coastal bit, that there's probably quite a wooded area close by. I should probably ask, actually. but the smaller pieces of bones anyway are in and around the rest of my space. And then I popped these in this jar for the time being, which is actually, it was intended for feathers, but this is the top portion of a skull, so just the back with the eye sockets. And it's really interesting because it's so smooth, where the beach has given it a lot of wear and tear. I have no idea what these are, so if anyone has any clue just from looking at them, they are so heavy. They feel like concrete. It's very strange. So I don't have any idea what they are, but they've clearly been worn a lot by the sea. And interesting note, if you could smell this, it smells like salt water and seaweed. Like they really retained the ocean smell, which I thought was very cool. And then this. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, the name's gone. Correct me if I'm wrong, she says, and then there's no information. I use these in decks as well, and I was just looking it up earlier to check, because the pattern on the back was quite faded, but actually if you look you can see it. So that's it, sand dollar. Thank you, Hazel. My hero. This, I have never seen a sand dollar in real life before, let alone thought I would own one. This is so freaking cool. It's got this tiny little hole in here, and oh, if you can hear, it's actually got quite a bit of sand in it still. Not loads, although it would be awesome if it works as a rattle, but every time I spin it around or pick it up, it falls out. So there was quite a bit of sand in the parcel that I assume had come out of this, and I gathered it all, and I have it in like one of my small vials, because waste not, want not. That's pretty cool as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, this sand dollar was in it. There were feathers that were in and around as well. I can probably reach this one. This, to me, I have another feather like this I was gifted from a friend, and it's a turkey feather. So that is going to be my immediate assumption for this, but I don't know, and I haven't asked. There was quite a few feathers. There was certainly some like dove and pigeon ones. There were some small songbird feathers that I've not quite identified yet. I'm a big feather fanatic, by the way. And then this large beauty, which I absolutely love. So I cleaned those, and then again, they are in and around my space because my space is just full of nature for the days that I can't get outside. Yes, the moth. The moth is beautiful, isn't it? I love Pandora Witch Shop. So that's the name of the creator that does like all of the boards that I've got. So this is the Wheel of the Year, which I love. And also, should we take a moment? Happy summer solstice, my Northern Hemisphere friends. I have been doing lots of summer solstice stuff outside today, because that's how I like to ritualize and celebrate it, and then I will do some more later. And to my Southern Hemisphere friends, happy winter solstice. But I have an interesting relationship with the Wheel of the Year, because I find that a lot of people seem to be one or the other. So it's like they either follow it by the book, or there's almost a big group of like anti-Wheel of the Year. If you follow the Wheel of the Year, then you're not honouring the tides of your land, and you're ignoring it, and you're removed. And I just can't with the drama. There are definitely nuances and spectrums in a lot of these places that seem to be missed when people are talking about things online in absolutes anyway. And when thinking about a lot of these things of preference, I like the Wheel of the Year because, especially this, because I have it on there and it reminds me, because my foggy brain just doesn't remember. It just doesn't anymore, unfortunately. And I had the best memory, so it's quite a stark contrast. But I do work with the seasonal tides in more of like a ebb and flow land-based practice, but I still do rituals on the day if my body allows me and I feel up to it, because, you know, I like to do both. That's basically how it works. Those two I both bought, by the way, that I'm showing you. They actually gifted me this one, which is why I can't remember what it is. Is it like a Metron cube? I like doing rituals on top of this. That's what I use it for. I believe that these are like, I want to say planetary things. I am not up on the lingo with this, but this was a beautiful, beautiful gift along with another board. I can't get all of them out, but these are the three that are sitting on my altar. Yeah. Oh, don't worry, Hazel. Butterfly, moth, you know, potato, patata. So what's next? What's next? Let's do the other beautiful gift and then we'll move on to some other things. They are planetary symbols. I thought so. You know, I recognise some of them and then not others, which is classic. It's classic Tegan. If you are an Instagram follower, you have already seen this goodness. I love it when people send me their artwork in stickers as well. The wonderful Lennox, who assured me that this was not a gift for any other reason than to be a gift, because I had mentioned this being on my wish list. And then Lennox, the creator, which her shop is this, for anyone who's wondering. Does it have the information on the back? Yeah, there you go. Hello, 𝗵𝘁𝗿𝗄.com. Lennox gifted me first this, and then her washi tape, which I will show you after. So the 2 sticker packs came in these. They're so cute. And of course the deck, and also this glorious little trash panda, which is one of the cards that was signed on the back. And I had this on my altar for a little while as well, because I freaking love putting creators' artwork in and around my space. So yeah, Lennox gifted me this, and I cannot tell you how psyched I was, because this deck is a bit of me in perhaps every way that I can imagine. So I'm just going to take you through the stickers first, and I'll try and be more reasonable and hold them up closer. These are all stickers that are images from the cards. And you can see there's a lot going on. So you've got animal inclusion. In this one, you've got plant inclusion, mineral. So if I'm remembering correctly, we've got the goat, the fern, the smoky quartz. This looks like a folded handkerchief. The diamonds, they have a meaning. There's like 4 sort of gentle suit additions to this, although they don't really hamper the use of the deck at all, which I love. I don't mind structures in Oracle, but I'm not a massively like, I don't want to study my Oracle or need to for months on end before I can use it. So I had no difficulty with like the wild unknown archetypes, because archetypes make sense to me, whereas the alchemy Oracle, I'm probably going to sell that one. But yeah, I love this urn. All of the symbology is spoken about in the book as well, because this is the 2nd edition, and the 2nd edition had some, I think there were card changes, because there were charm cards originally, and I think the charm cards are going to become their own deck at some stage. But also additions just explaining what everything is, because some of these I'll know straight off the bat, like the snail and the eel, and then some of them I may not. This is clearly a type of, I want to say coral anyway. I started off sure and then changed my mind. But it is nice to know like what they are depicting. So let's get into the Coastal Curiosities, and I've actually added the 3 cards. I'm doing something in Patreon that's a month-long tarot sort of divination, because it's not just tarot, sorry, a divination exercise and practice off of our animal gnosis for the month, which is Crow. And three of the cards that I shuffled and pulled as part of the conversation when working with it were compassion, protection, and pursue. But I have put them back in the deck so that we could have a proper nosy at them. Also this bag. I mean, I nearly forgot to mention it with its keys, which I love, but I've said to people, I think recently, every time I see keys, I just think of 𝗂𝗂𝗃. I've become that. I don't even work with 𝗂𝗂𝗃. I have done a little offering thing, but yeah, I don't work with 𝗂𝗂𝗃 and all that pantheon. So I don't know why my mind does that, but these are 54 cards anyway. And I'm just going to show you just a couple. So you see you've got your keywords in terms of like expanded ones, a write-up, and then here you've got the breakdown. So in the endurance card, it mentions the old ornate clock, the mushrooms, the horse weather vane, the lure and the grasshopper, and then the leaves. Everything is mentioned, and it's sort of strung into this really nice, concise and clear meaning or story or just symbolic identifier. And I think that that just takes away the guesswork in a deck, and I really appreciate that from a creator. So aside from the book just being in colour and just freaking, it's done so well. Like, I massively fangirled about it, and the thing is, it was on my wish list. I knew I was going to fangirl about it. I didn't know that I would ever own it, just because it's quite difficult to get a lot of indie decks stocked in the UK, because we only have a few stockists. Of course, they have different, I want to say, like tastes and things that they gravitate towards, and then financial capabilities of like how much stock that they can have. And then of course each creator's got their own set of parameters as well. So I didn't think that I would get a chance to own this, and I cannot express my gratitude enough for this deck. 1 second. Oh, look. Blackberries. We have lots of bramble, like a blackberry fruiting bramble in our garden. And to be honest, it can be in some senses quite a bane, because we have the 3 most aggressive, I don't know how to explain it, like very hardy, very strong. There's a lot of interesting plant medicine in the spirit of working with them, but we have all 3 of them. So we have ivy, it's not knotweed, but it's something very similar, and then we have bramble, and it absolutely throttles, strangles and overtakes every other plant in the garden, and it's quite an experience to try and cut it back. But in the concept of pursue, for me, as someone who has quite a strong tie to that, I find it very easy to fit these symbols into the messages, and I get quite a lot from this interesting mix of like fine art and digital collage and layering with this, like, and this is not a diss to anyone, I really like these patterns, but I am going to call them old lady wallpaper. I had old lady wallpaper in here for the longest time until we painted over it. So it's like old lady wallpaper meets going into a textile shop and looking for fabric cut-offs. That's what the backgrounds remind me of. And I really love it. Like, if you were going to go out for like high tea, which sounds so fucking English, that's the kind of vibe that I get from this. Lennox is so lovely, isn't she? It's just really, really cool artwork. And another thing that I've found working with it, aside from just getting so many hits, is that it works with every deck that I've used it with, because it's got this combination thing going on. And yet the keywords are so simple yet expansive, like the one main dominant keyword. I don't use the book a lot, but I do enjoy the book for like, oh shit, what's this plant? And then I read it, and I have read the book actually not cover to cover, sorry. I've read the meanings cover to cover. There are other parts of the book that I haven't read yet, like the spreads. But I'm not one to be tied to like the deck matching aesthetics, although that is always a nice vibe. But in terms of like energetically, I feel that this is that nice sweet spot of not being either too busy or too spacious. And I have used it with a lot of decks already, as well as this sort of like having them out on with this ongoing ritual that I'm doing. But I love this for forage. Like when I look at the acorns, and then I think about how the acorns have to be foraged to be planted, so I'm already thinking of squirrels. And then this is a really interesting thing to add to owl, and might not be the first thing that comes to other people, but when I think of owl and the term forage, I think of owl poo. Like people go and look for owl pellets and they forage them up and they look for tiny little mouse bones and stuff. If you're one of my fellow vultures, at least. That is a thing that goes on. And then of course we've got the mortar and pestle. Like I am having I have the biggest crush. I have the biggest girl crush on this deck in the world, I swear. And the animal inclusion feels so much more fulfilling for me, because whilst they're not the only key part, it's no secret that I'm really into animals. And one of the things that I often say is that there aren't enough insects, specifically in decks, and variations of like certain other animals as well. And there are a lot of insects in this deck. We have the gorgeous tarantula. And see, there's no animal. I don't know what has lived in that shell, but look at the little hedgehog with the teeth. Although fallen out teeth, I think I said this in my Instagram live, leaves me a little bit nervous. The red fox is my favourite, and then when I shuffled the deck for the first time after going on about this card, although I very mistakenly, which is one reason the book is very good, I mistook this coral at first glance for a cactus, which is very me. But also, not only does this have one of my favourite animals of all time, which is the red fox, it also has my favourite plant of all time, which is lavender. So I love that Discover was my first card pull. Wonder, the keyword to our little trash panda. But I think that you're going to, if you're going to hang around with me for a while on my channel, then you're going to hear a lot about this deck in particular, because I'm just finding it to be very versatile. I will probably see it as an all-round deck, because whilst I don't massively ascribe things to seasons, there are a few that, because they feel so inherently kind of spring and summer to me, it's more those ones. I seem to be able to bring like winter and fall into all seasons, but I have this thing about seeing lots of like plush greenery especially in the winter, when everything's kind of brown or grey and it's died back here and we're in the throes of like the concrete jungle, as it were, or the barren concrete jungle. I think I just find it a little depressing, if I'm honest, to see so much greenery and springy kind of stuff, that it doesn't compute with me on some kind of level. And this has that real vibrancy, but there's something about these black and white editions and the vintage edition that mixed with, especially the Antique Anatomy Tarot is one that I have been using with this and loving. We got a little black fox. In fact, I will get it and show you really quickly because it is the most delicious pairing. I have the mass market out from pulling a few cards for someone the other day. Look, they're too low down. I have issues. There we go. I really love these two together, and in that it gives me, oh, look how the colours are playing with each other. So the yellow with the sunflowers, and then whatever red this is. It's like a reddy orange with this and on the cup. This brings me into that more sort of fall vibe with this deck. So I do think seasonally it's going to be a really great all-rounder for me. And I, yeah, cannot extend my gratitude enough. Oh, look at the colours. I do a lot of colour work, I think I've said before. And so when colours play with each other, especially, I really start to notice it. Not contrasting colours so much, but definitely if a colour has just been echoed and I'm using several decks and it's there, it's there, it's there, it's there, that's kind of when I pull the colour invitation in, because I feel like then that's when it's really speaking to me. But yeah, delicious. Love this deck. Freaking love linen cardstock. It's really good. I think that if I was going to create a deck, which I wouldn't imagine anyone would get excited if I was going to anyway, but don't get excited because I'm not. But if I was going to, I'm pretty certain at this stage that it would be on this linen cardstock because it just is so damn friendly on my hands, has a really nice shuffle experience, feels really durable, like it just hits all of the things. Clearly no colour is lost in contrast. So yeah. And then with this, I don't know if anyone knows this, but Lennon has really, Lennox, not Lennon, has recently brought out washi tapes and kindly then gifted me these as well. And the reason that I've left this out is because I wanted to do them justice. And they are very mindfully made. So you can see here that they're made from compostable rice paper with non-toxic adhesive and soy-based inks. And each roll is 2 inches tall and 33 foot long. And I know that she was talking about sticker sheets, but actually how this washi tape offered so much more for people's money. And I think that it was ingenious. So here they are. I have obviously got them out of order, which is, but you can see here they do come in order and it says what cards are on what roll. So if you were sensible and not like myself, then you would have been able to keep them in the order. And as you can see, it's got print-offs of all of the cards. And so you might see various sort of tarot and oracle people and their beautiful journals who have the capacity to like print off pictures of the decks that they're using and put them in their journal. I do have a Canon 𝗪𝗁, which is like a small printer that turns little photos into stickers, but I have only really used that to take pictures of like spreads and put the spread in a book because just financially it doesn't make sense to me. It's not accessible enough to just be printing out every single card. And also I know that there's a lot of people who might not have the capacity to do that or the know-how to do it, as well as the financial means and the technological means. And so this is a really lovely way to be able to incorporate that in. That's, at least for me, the main way that I've thought about how I would use this deck. this washi tape, although you could totally just as easily peel it off and have like a really fun border if you're someone who likes to do the sort of junk journaling. I always find that a really weird name because it sounds more negative than it is. And yeah, I will definitely be using these, and when I do use them, I will show you what I do with them, because getting back into some kind of fun, artsy junk journaling meets actual journaling is something I want to do, but I'm going to reframe all of it, which brings me into burnout, I suppose. Although I'm not going to talk about this for ages because it's not particularly an interesting topic, but it's just something that I'm aware of. And I have spoken before about, it wasn't quite a burnout, and I can't remember what I titled the video actually, but an experience like that with reading for myself. And some of the other things that I do when I'm experiencing that and I don't want to read for myself. But this is more like a life burnout that I am going through at the moment. And people will know that, maybe will know if you've watched my videos, was it last month or just the end of the month before, that our gecko Jagger unfortunately could no longer push through his health conditions and had to be put to sleep. And there's been a lot going on with my health, and I'm waiting for biopsy results, and the stress of that tends to put me in a flare-up with my conditions anyway, unfortunately. But there's been a lot going on, and there's been aspects of like being online and community that I'm feeling very burnt out by as well. Which is why it was so funny when my friend said, Sir Logan said to me, "You're speaking about burnout on a live that you've only just done a live in under 24 hours. And I thought that that was actually a very good point, and a way where, even though I'm really aware that I have this burnout thing going on, that I am not always clued into it, not always honouring it, or that there are, I suppose for me, there's an aspect of this where this is actually just a really chilled out live, as opposed to me quote unquote working like I do on my Patreon, because I take my Patreon very seriously. Not that we don't ever do anything fun, but I think that there are different types of Patreons, I'm realising, for different people. So some of them are more to just sort of support the artist, say if they're an artist, and it's like tipping them every month, like tipping them a coffee or something, and there's not really much content. Maybe there's a little bit of behind the scenes or something like that. Whereas mine's really structured more as like a process of running, I don't want to say courses, but like workshopping stuff and teaching stuff and having shared experiences and just more like that kind of thing. So it is definitely more business focused. It is work, and this live doesn't feel like that. But I do push myself, and it's a really interesting relationship to have when every single day, and I can't speak for everyone who's got chronic conditions or is disabled or who has chronic pain, but I will say that from a lot of friends that I've spoken to, I know I'm not the only person in saying that every single day is kind of a push to some degree. And so sometimes in that feeling of pushing against a resistance that you haven't created, you get so used to it that you begin to be really good at ignoring or not being aware of when it has sort of gravitated towards more of a bigger issue. And it's just kind of this thing, you know, it's not about, I'm not making myself ill, that would be rubbish and ableist. But it was an interesting concept to think about, you know, how much I fall into doing things as a part of my work and doing things as a part of my pleasure. So this was definitely a pleasure thing, but I just thought that I would speak to the burnout a bit, because I'm not gonna lie, it's been really interesting, and in terms of listening to like people talk about community, and I honestly don't think that anyone says anything new about communities as a whole. And I don't just mean the witchy or the tarot or the spiritual or whatever you want to call it. I just mean community online, like, and community in real life. They're different, but there are similar grouped difficult experiences that come up in all of them. And I don't think that anything's particularly fresh or new, or not very often is it specific to a set niche community. Although I know that a lot of people that are entering into the more like well-being spiritual ones sometimes have an expectation that maybe there's not going to be some of the shit that goes on in others, but we're all humans and dynamics can be difficult. And then you remove the layer of being in front of each other and being able to hear things like tone and context and, you know, just other layers that might not help everyone depending on how you process and understand things, but do make some bit of a difference. It's just interesting. And I noticed that I suppose the more that's going on in my life behind the scenes, the more challenging stuff, I suppose, the more my attitude changes. Not always for the better either, but that things become less important to me and my frame of reference for them is less tolerant. And I started to feel a bit like the community was getting a bit, I'm not like other tarot readers, or I'm not like other witches, or I'm not like insert identifier. And usually that's not a thing that grabs my attention. I just shimmy on past it. And actually, when it does start to grab my attention in a way where it's irritating or exhausting or just really garnering like more than a light response from me, that often means there's something going on for me, because like I said, I don't usually engage with it. But I was really starting to feel that and notice the difference between people sharing practice and saying how they do and why, from those who state that their way is the only way and the right way, and the shaming that goes on, especially like kind of passive shaming that goes on in the online communities. And I am not here for it anyway, but I had just felt exhausted by it. So I've noticed that my sort of physical, tangible and elaborate type of rituals die down in the spring and summer anyway. A lot of the stuff that I do is outside. A lot of it is more energetic or, you know, in and of the land. It doesn't get brought in with me. Thus, it's never in front of a camera to snap a picture of or whatever if I fancy sharing it. It just doesn't get documented the same way, and it doesn't look the same or have the same focus. So I do tend to kind of have a different relationship with those two seasonal tides in comparison to the other two. But I have felt myself kind of really needing to come away and reevaluate and then return and continue to just show up with my values, and rather than focusing on what the fuck everyone else is doing, which is one of the biggest problems, is it not? Like, maybe people disagree, but I don't think that us focusing too much, you know, yes, if there's harm, yes, if we're inciting useful discussion, yes, if we're having respectful discourse, even angry discourse, you know, you can do healthy angry discourse, but like not 24/7 just being focused on what everyone else is doing. There has to become a point where that's a problem, surely, at least in my humble opinion. That's certainly not where I was at, but I don't actually like to pay too much attention to what people are doing online as a whole. I like to come in and engage and enjoy your content and hopefully comment, but I don't know if any of that's making sense to anyone, but that's kind of where I've been at. And rather than allow my more reactive space to roll with that and bring that to the spaces that I show up on online, I've just been dialing it back a bit. And then one of the things that I like, even as a quote unquote content creator, which is just a facet of what I do, right? I don't have a second Instagram that I use. I don't have any other versions of YouTube. Like, I show up okay. It's not always every single part of my life, because privacy online is fucking important and I think healthy. But in how I do show up, I want it to be as reflective of as a full person as I want to be. And so I've recently just been sharing some pictures of my pets on my Instagram and just, you know, being what I want to see in the community, trying to not fall into focusing on what everyone else is and isn't doing, which honestly is the way forward for me. So decks that I'm parting with, I've already parted with one of them, and I think that this might be a surprise to people, and it's probably a good thing that my dad doesn't watch my channel, because I feel bad. I only feel bad because it's really sweet that he thought of me, and in the grand scheme of things it was a very me present, but it wasn't getting used. I have a large collection. Anyone that buys gifts for me knows that there's no agreement that I'm going to keep it for forever, and I don't expect that of other people. I've literally gifted people things and they've sold them 2 weeks later. That's their business. If I've got an attachment to it, then it's not really a gift, in my opinion. You are welcome to disagree. Oh, I'm glad that you love seeing my pets. Thank you. I keep forgetting to check the comments. God, I've been talking for an hour. I'm just going to carry on. I'm not worried if this is rewatchable anyway. That wasn't the aim. But yes, so that's kind of the rule with me. And I extend that to everyone else, because it can't be one rule for me and a different for everyone else. So my dad bought me the Nightmare Before Christmas tarot, and it was awesome. I freaking love the artwork. It was done, I'm going to say, pretty well. There was a thing where some of the miners were very pippish and some of them were very scenic. And I didn't mind the mishmash, because there was a fair amount of each, but some suits were more one way than the other. And whilst I would never call something lazy, because my gosh, the time that goes into the artwork, I would say that some of the pips and the way that they went on, because there was other scenic cards, it made those pips feel less inspired. You know, you'd have a scenic card and then there would be 4 candles and 5 candles and 6 candles, and then a scenic card again, and it just was just missing a little something for me. Yes, it would have been a great deck to have for Halloween. Yes, I could have kept it and sold it at a later point. I don't like things sitting around and knowing that the chances of me picking them up are just slim to none. And I don't want to become a keeper of anything that has a mild or a big sentimental attachment, because, you know, when I die, they're not coming with me. So that may sound brutal. I don't know. It's not my thing. And I'm not a minimalist. I am not a maximalist either. I have a nice in-betweenness with it, but my space has its tchotchkes. It has all of its little bits and pieces around it. So that's just how I roll. So I have already sold the Nightmare Before Christmas Tarot. A few people have asked me recently, so I'm just going to reiterate, although this was a while ago, that I did in fact sell the Personal Space Tarot as well. That has left my person. And then what are the other decks? Now, the I've got it here. The 𝗪𝗂𝗍𝗁𝗀 Tarot is on the potential chopping block, which I have mixed feelings about. And I'm going to be really honest and say that this is a cardstock thing, because this was a glorious gift. And I do have glossy decks and can work with glossy decks. The matte version of this come out so close to after this. And I feel like the creator had no plans for matte for the longest time, and now there's a matte one. But it's not just that it's glossy. I have some glossy, oracle decks, like especially some of the old school ones, like the Jasmine Beckett Griffith, Lucy Cavendish are some of my favourites. But this cardstock is very slippery and kind of chippy around the edges, and it just is just constantly slipping out of my hands. It's a slippery little bugger. I love the card artwork. I really enjoy the creator. I actually have her cat oracle that was originally an indie, and then it got renamed and brought out as a mass market deck. And I love it. I really love her artwork. I feel like this is such a beautiful, emotive kind of rendition of the tarot in particular. I appreciate that not everyone is white, because I, have quite a few out of the small amount of people-y decks that I have, there is a lot of that. And I like this art style. The colours, it's just the cardstock and how we struggle. We struggle to get along, and so it's on that kind of do I, don't I have advertised it, but whilst no one's showing interest, what do I do kind of thing, because the matte version isn't available in the UK. But I haven't used this for the longest time, and so I'm really aware of that. And like I said, that starts to become a problem for me, that I haven't used it for the longest time. Does this not look like Link? It has like massive 𝗪𝗂𝗍𝗁𝗀 vibes to me. It's maybe not the perfect rendition of Link, but I really enjoy it. It's such a gorgeous deck. It's such an emotive deck. It is an interesting one where the wands are, and some of the others, but the wands in particular are quite pibbish. And then a lot of the other suits are far more scenic or people focused. But it's not like it's the first deck that I've got that's done that, and it probably won't be the last. It isn't something that I notice as much as perhaps someone else might. But yeah, it's just slippery, and in its slippiness, it is it becomes a challenge, and my hands hurt really quickly. So I'm kind of sad about it, actually. I'm not going to lie. In terms of, I'm not going to weep, but I waited for this deck for the longest time. It was such an apt gift, and I don't dislike it. I enjoy the guidebook. I'm not a fan of gilding, but I have many decks that have gilding, at least not the really shiny stuff. I find it's like quite sharp. But like I said, I think that if your hands are in great working condition, then it makes sense that this wouldn't be wouldn't be an issue for you. And then it's really easy for people to think it's a superficial aspect. It does fan like a beaut though, but it's not a superficial aspect when it causes pain very quickly. And of course, I don't need hundreds and hundreds of decks, so, oh sorry, I'm rocking the camera. So then I have to start thinking, well, you know, what hurts my hands and what doesn't. But I am minorly hypocritical because my Braidey Tarot really hurts my hands, and I have, see, it won't even help me decide. It's like, make the decision yourself. I'm not getting involved. I love that. Yeah, if anyone out there, I mean, the difficulty is that trading decks overseas is still expensive. Now I'm in the UK, so it tends to lock me into like a UK pool of people, because thanks to Brexit, it makes even other European countries really expensive now. But if there happens to be someone with a matte version that for some reason would like to trade, then I would be super interested, and it's in immaculate condition. The only thing I noticed was that, and I'm assuming that this is by design, the box, when the book's in it, it doesn't actually close all the way. It doesn't sit flush. And I contacted the person that my friend bought this off of, the shop stockist, and asked them about it, because that to me looks like, I don't know, that looks like an accident, like that the book was meant to fit in because it's the right size. And they sent me another copy of the book. I don't know why, because look, these are completely flush. So I was asking about the box, but needless to say, I have 2 copies of the book. It is a good book. One's the 5th printing book, one's the 6th printing book. They're exactly the same other than that. And yeah, it means that they don't sit flush, but it is a real copy, don't worry. And it's a gorgeous deck, but it's on the choppers. It's on the choppers. What else do I have on the choppers? I feel like I've forgotten now. Oh, the Wild Unknown Alchemy, which I've spoken about, so I'm not going to get it out. And also the Wild Unknown Mini. And the reason being is I am a big fan of the Wild Unknown series as an art form. It's very much my art style, and it had a really, really big impact on me when I returned to the tarot scene. But I thought it would get used more, and it does not. And then I had to decide how much of a collector I was, basically, because I've said to people before, I am not a collector of things that I do not use. I have one deck that I consider a collector's item in my little world, which is a Pokemon Tarot, and it's so massive and heavy that I cannot read with it very often at all. But I am a big Pokemon fan and thus love it. This has a different Justice card. It has the lovely Pride infused Justice card, which I just thought was, you know, a lovely addition, and an interesting commentary as well, like politically. So I thought, well, I'll get the little copy and it can be a fun tin, and I'll take it out and about on my woodland walks with me, because my other 2 copies of this deck are both indie copies, the 1st and 2nd edition. And the reason that I have both of them is because they have, I want to say like 4 to 6 cards that are completely different, along with different card backs. And that is there is a small amount where I consider myself minorly a collector, in terms of I am that besotted with the deck and the artwork. Not necessarily the artist. I don't tend to, unless I know an artist or I become friends with an artist, I don't really tend to get involved with like the artist stuff very much, I'm not gonna lie, and who they are or what they get up to the rest of the time. But the art is a big thing for me, and so I wanted both of them. But then when I started thinking about, okay, well, the alchemy deck's not working out for me, mainly because it's hexagonal, which is irritating me. I can do round, I can't do hexagonal. And then isn't this a shame that it's just sitting here, a whole tiny deck, and barely getting any use? Do I really want it for one card and to own the smaller edition? To sort of preserve, I suppose, taking the indie decks outside and having accidents with them, which is a very me thing to do. Like, it's quite plausible that I would go outside and have an accident with one of the indie decks. But it turns out I'm not a tiny deck person. I feel like I would actually rather the larger mass market copy, but then I would only bother getting it if it had this card in it, and I don't know that there's a way to tell. So yeah, I've got 2 indie copies. I have less of an attachment with the first edition, much to people's shock and dismay. So that's the one I take out with me if I'm out and about, because I like seeing the cardstock in big. Although this is, look how Tegan friendly the cardstock is. Is the Tiny Traveller matte? I have that unopened. I have no idea, Hillary, actually. I honestly don't know. But yeah, this is cute and it's a nice idea, and it works with decks like, let me just grab, I do have other small decks, you see. I have the small version of, let's grab it. I told you this was just going to be a rambly chat. I'll probably wrap up in about 15 minutes because, oh my gosh, you'd have been dealing with me for like an hour and a half. I have the small Next World Tarot, which I'm not going to lie, I don't use loads, but I do love it. I think that it's a very powerful deck. It's a very important deck. In a lot of the way that it's representing and the discussions that it's having, either overtly or, you know, more through the artwork and stuff. And the other version of this deck is huge, which of course I'm not going to be able to use. I do, look, maybe it'll be easier to do it that way. There is a size difference though. I do prefer this size. So I have this in small, but because there really wasn't another option for me that was feasible. And then I do have some smaller oracles that are more, I don't think Lenormand is the size that they would be called. What's the word for it? I don't know. I'm sure someone else will know what I mean anyway. They're this kind of size. So even a bit bigger than the Next World Tarot. So I've got this. I've got this is 100 Ink Animals, by the way. The Earthbound Oracle, which I've got mixed in with my Seeker's Lenormand. They're all this shape and size. And so the tarot deck is nice with this. But it's just not a huge deal in my world. Like, it's not. I have recently opened my website and thus my readings. And my readings are no longer written reading format. They are live video sessions, and so the cards are held up, you know, with my face to the camera. And so I'm not trying to fit them into like a top-down frame or anything like that, or a picture. And it just seems like there's less and less reason for me to have this. Now, on a really silly, ridiculous, superficial level, if I had the animal oracle, so is it how has she named it? Doesn't say on the side of the box. I think it's just called the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit Oracle. If I had the tiny tin version of that, I'd probably be more inclined to use them and then keep them. But again, I do like to use them together, and having a large oracle and a tiny tarot. So yeah, this is another one that has found itself on the potential chopping block, meaning that I've got it advertised, but honestly, selling mass market decks in the UK is nigh on impossible in my experience. When you are, firstly, I'm only selling to other UK people because it's mass market, so there's no point otherwise. And secondly, people just don't want to. They either want them for like £2-3, which is just not plausible for me because that doesn't even cover its post, or they would just rather buy them new. And it's a really interesting thing that I've noticed that my American friends don't seem to have the same kind of problem with. And I know that there's a much bigger pool of people that we're talking about. But I do feel like over here in the groups that I'm in, kind of, I'm not really looking to trade because I'm quite happy for my collection to get a tiny bit smaller. But even if I was looking to trade, it does seem like the secondhand deck thing has less importance or is less of a thing over here. And if anyone else in the UK has any opinions on that, or you want to disagree with me, by all means go for it, because I'm genuinely curious if it's just a me thing, but it seems a shame. I love getting secondhand decks, as long as they're not completely, you know, beaten basically, yeah. But I mean, look at this. I can't believe that Logan got this for $7. It doesn't even look used. And honestly, absolutely 95% of the things that I have ever gifted, sold or traded look like this. And it's not even for lack of use. It's just, you know, most things fare pretty well. So yeah, it's a shame. Do I have anything else before I go? My partner bought me this recently. Because we are doing gifts, and technically this is 4 cards. I am a Pokemon card collector, so I suppose that is a thing that I collect. Although it sort of happened in that I got given my old cards from when I was younger. I don't have anywhere near all of them, and a few people did express an interest in seeing my Pokemon collection, but it was only a small amount, so I didn't know whether to do it or not, because, you know, it's not like they're laid out. They're in a massive folder, but they're not laid out in a particularly, like, I don't know, interesting way. They are grouped in their... Oh, the name's gone. Like, I'm just going to say the elements. You can tell I've been talking about tarot. And then these are not them. These are just some new ones that he had got me, which need to go in here. They're grouped in their elements because, yeah, brain's gone. And then, like, all of the Growliths are together. All of the Arcanines are together, because that's the way that makes sense in my little world. And I like seeing all of the artistic renditions together. Like, I've got a Growlithe from 1998, and then I've got one from 2022. So I think that it's really fun to look at them together. So you have to let me know if you're interested. But the newest sets, this is really throwing me, I have to say. So Pokemon has been, at least the English version, has been yellow, of some iteration of like a yellowy colour around the sides for the longest time. And then the newest expansions, based on one of the more recent games, have gone on to this grey. And it's throwing me. Look though. Where's my Arcanine? There they are. It's a shiny baby. Yeah, I'm a big kid. So basically I didn't get Pokemon cards for several decades, probably. And my brother gave me the ones that he still had left of mine back. I did have probably in the hundreds more, but I got my folder back. So I've got some of them that I had, and some of them are from like the first ever pack I was bought and the first ones that I ever traded. You can tell because some of them are bent up to high hell as well. And I have a few Japanese ones that I bought from like sci-fi conventions, because back then when I was young and Pokemon first come out in card form, it was considered like extra cool if you could get the Japanese ones, although there's no difference other than, of course, they're the Japanese ones, and the backs are different. So they don't say Pokemon, they say Pocket Monster, I believe. And yeah, my partner said how much that, I can't remember what he said, basically something about it being sweet, that I was so in love with the artwork and the Pokemon after all these years, because I am, and I play all of the games, and I have a few figurines, although again I try not to own too much too much shit, and started buying me cards and created me a tiny but wonderful problem. So yes, this is just a silly little mini book, which I'll probably put my favourites in as opposed to just any and all of them. And it's got the Violet and Scarlet starters on, well, mounts rather, legendary mounts. So I went for Violet, if anyone's curious. But how cute is that? I love Pokemon. So if you want to see Pokemon, then you have to tell me, because I don't know. I like to share my joy online, but I don't want to just bore everyone. I'm sure that I do sometimes, but hate watching is other people's problems. It's not mine. I've had some interesting hate watching going on in recent months on my account. I just delete shitty comments, not ones that invite conversation, but just out and out shitty comments. And yeah, I just mosey on by people. But if you are getting an influx of it at the moment, just know you're not alone. It's not really something that I give much time and energy to anymore, because I don't think it's conducive for us. But if you're new here, like on YouTube as a creator, don't let it get you down. People will thumbs down your videos literally as soon as they come up without watching them. Like, it's just a thing for some of us. Honestly, I think that's why YouTube took away the capability of you to see like how many thumbs down someone has, because you used to be able to see and then they automatically hid it. I don't even think there's an option to show it. And I just find that it's still an interesting, like, underhanded, passive thing that goes on on some of the strangest videos. But if people want to waste their time and energy like boosting other people's visibility, because it does, a like or a dislike puts your video into the algorithm more, then that's their business, right? It's not our business. We can just let them get on with it. You're happy with secondhand decks, you have mass market decks you want to sell but almost can't be bothered, and that's the problem, isn't it? They don't shift. And I've tried grouping decks together, including indie ones, and doing them for like a really discounted group price, and that doesn't work either. And the problem is that the thrift shops locally don't want stuff like that where I am. They're not massively into it. It's not the kind of thing that they feel like they can shift. And then I have sent like huge boxes to friends of just 5, 6, 10 decks to let them have a fun parcel to open and kind of experience them. But of course, firstly, they need to want the decks, and very occasionally when I'm selling decks, it's just because I need the money as well. Like, it's just one of those things. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be that popular. Hi, Dee Dee. So it's been an hour and a half of me just rambling about glorious creations and a little bit of nonsense, because that's how I roll, folks. Just a little bit of nonsense. Keeps me young. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm assuming there's no questions, but I will give it a few minutes. And do I have anything before I sign off? Like I said, I am now open for readings. They are video readings. Oh, my signal's just gone really bad as well, so sorry if you're getting that. My website is linked on everything now, but I will do a proper newsletter announcement in July, and I'll do a discount as well on the newsletter, because I like to do something each newsletter to kind of give back, I suppose, like fun freebies and other stuff. So yeah, I'll do a little discount, but other than that, there's not much to report. I will be back hopefully for June favourites. Like I said, I'm waiting on results. I have a lot going on. There is a small possibility that I end up skipping a month, but I'm hoping not to. Oh, and I have a poll currently at the moment as well, where you can vote for the next review that you want to see me do, because I do enjoy reviewing decks, and I have owned many of my decks for quite some time and used them a lot. So I think there are 5 options: 2 indie decks, 3 mass market, 3 of them are tarot, 2 of them are oracle, and at the moment, as it stands, there's 80 something votes, and Tarot of the Hidden Realm is winning. So if you want to vote, get voting, and I will do that review in July or August. Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm happy to spend some solstice moments with you all as well. So thank you, Dee Dee. Thank you, Hazel. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Logan. Who else has actually commented so I can say thank you? Thank you, Mimi. Thank you, Avalon. I just want to make sure I've not forgotten anyone. I know that there's a lot of silent watchers. That's okay. Thank you as well. And I'll see you soon. Bye.